of October the 12th, 2016. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, can we have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Councillor Colclough, seconded by Councillor Hain. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Approval of minutes, September 19th, 2016, Committee of the Whole meeting. Moved by Councillor Neary, seconded by somebody else. Councillor Gisbert. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. September the 19th, 2016, regular council meeting minutes. Councillor Neary, Councillor Colclough, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. One of the pleasures of doing this job is the special events side of things. First off, on behalf of the residents of Lanceville and the Council of Lanceville and the District of Lanceville, I'd like to thank all the firemen for the efforts that they, firewomen? Firefighters, thank you. I'm getting there. And by the way, meetings are recorded now. I'd like to thank all the firefighters and their families for the efforts that they put in on a daily basis on behalf of the residents of Lanceville. Certainly with regards to concerns that arise, not only fire-related, but emergency-related. You guys do an excellent job, and certainly with regards to some of the special events the association does through the year. There's no way that we can say thanks enough to all of you for what you do. However, tonight we would like to recognize one specific individual. Mr. Page. Please come on. With regards to Steve Page, tonight we'd like to recognize him for 25 years worth of service. Steve started with the department January 31st, 1991, which is like forever ago. At that time there, the font didn't used to have to be as big for me to make sure I read the right thing. You progress through the ranks, you're now a lieutenant with regards to the department. Steve is a leader in the driver training side, using years of experience as a commercial driver to help train members as well as provide safety through the community. Steve's a valuable resource for the department, not just due to his firefighting skills, but as a resident and as a district employee. He brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to the community. So now, on behalf of Fire Commissioner Gordon Anderson, and with his best wishes, and on behalf of the district and the residents of Lanceville, I present to Mr. Page, Firefighter Page, Lieutenant Page, there we go, the 25-year service medal and certificates, along with a certificate of appreciation and a gift from the district themselves.
What happened? Okay.
Didn't need that one 6 years ago.
Yeah. I think this is all recorded. Cottage.
There's the district certificate as well. The British Columbia Long Service Award in recognition of 25 years of dedication to the fire service, signed by the Fire Commissioner.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now, Chief Chapman.
Well, Steve, congratulations.
Thank you, Rob.
In this day and age, the average volunteer firefighter puts in just under 5 years of service. So you can see somebody doing 25 years of service, you can see that not only a commitment to his community, but to the other firefighters as well, as he is a leader, he's a trainer, both on the fire ground and around the fire hall. And of course, as we know, it's a family affair. Now you hear about the fire department being a big family. You can see a lot of the families here tonight. Well, it's a pretty close family here because we got a husband and wife team that look after this community, and that's really special. And you know what? You don't see that too much in the fire service in British Columbia. Lanceville has a real bonus. We got this, and we got a second couple as well. So this is the type of dedication that the younger members of the department, that's what they're looking to. So thanks for what you do. Keep doing what you're doing because it's really beneficial for us. And congratulations on 25 years of excellent service. Good job.
Thank you, Rob. And thanks to the community too. It's been a pleasure.
This would be the appropriate time that the fire department.
Thank you.
There's a big vacuum over
I smell smoke.
And we're back on,
Steve, don't give up your day job.
I'm hoping not.
To be a part of it.
Yeah, well, Sean, I know you're disappointed that those people weren't here for you.
However, did they leave because of me?
We can go that far. We're used to them doing that. I'm sure it's a training thing. So next item, a presentation from Sean DePaul, Manager of Wastewater Services of the RDN with regards to the amending of development cost charges within the Southern Community Service Area. Mr. DePaul.
Thank you very much. I have a small podium here, so I may be dropping things. Be patient with me. Yeah, very cool with the fire department. And I, in fact, bought a calendar yesterday. And I'm glad that they don't actually have the guys with their shirts off anymore. That's good, too. So I'm the manager of Wastewater Services. I'm going to be talking about the Southern Community Development Cost Charges, which pertains to the Greater Island Pollution Control Center, the interceptor line pump stations and outfall. As well, I have Randy Alexander, the General Manager of Regional Community Utilities at the Regional District in Iowa with me here. In your agenda packages, you have a staff report. It has more detailed information. I'm going to be sort of hitting the high points. So you can refer to that too, and if you have any questions at the end, I can answer those. So I'm just going to go give a little bit of information on development cost charges, talk about our current review, talk about wastewater capital projects, which will be funded through the DCC program, the new proposed DCC rates, and then looking ahead what our schedule is in sort of completing this review and establishing new rates. Here we go. So the reason for DCC, sort of simply put, is that when development comes into a community, it requires capacity of infrastructure, and DCCs are applied to all kinds of different infrastructure programs. I'll speak specifically to wastewater treatment, RDN's treatment facilities. With treatment facilities, it's in terms of determining the capacity on average that a single-family, multifamily, commercial institution development has. We do have a lot of information, mostly based on water usage, and ultimately that's what wastewater usage is. So we know the impact that they will have, and then we as well know when we go forward, when we design for expansions. And a lot of times expansions aren't just expansions. Expansions are expanding the facility, but as well replacing aging infrastructure. So what we know when we have those designed, we know very detailed numbers in terms of what capacity that will provide and what capacity the old infrastructure had. So through that, we determine what percentage of that capital project is capacity and should ultimately be paid for by new development. This is all the DCC program and establishing the development cost charge bylaw that's done through the Local Government Act, and there's certain things that we need to follow, and we've gone through that process. One of the other things that the Local Government Act requires is that we include a minimum of a 1% assist factor. And the reason for that, now it's a minimum, some jurisdictions encourage a higher assist factor, and that is, it can be a decision to help encourage development for the benefits that a community may see the development provides to a community. And that's, anyway, in our case, we've done the minimum 1% assist factor. And that's, as I said, that is a requirement through the Local Government Act. So the RDN applies DCCs to pay for projects to increase our wastewater facility. We establish what the rates are, but we're essentially a wholesaler to the municipalities. So in the case of the South, it's City of Nanaimo and District of Lansville. Those DCCs are collected by the municipality. Now, it's a little bit of a unique situation with Lansville as I'm saying this, because I actually believe that the RDN collects those DCCs during development. Yeah, okay. So typically, anyway, it's a bit of a unique situation there, but typically we act as a wholesaler, and the municipalities will collect them on our behalf, interpret the bylaws, and that's one of the things with the language within the bylaws. We need to look to the municipality and make sure that the language that we apply our DCC bylaws to are similar or the same as what the municipalities do. But again, as I said with Lansville, we interpret those bylaws, so it's relatively straightforward. And then one other thing with the Southern Community DCC bylaw, we do offer, there is a 50% reduction for affordable housing, and there's certain criteria that have to be met to be determined to be considered an affordable housing project, and there's a 50% reduction to encourage that type of development. So the last time the DCC bylaw was updated was in 2009. We started our review. We retained a consulting engineer to lead the DCC review. And sort of some of the main components of it were to review development projections. So we worked again with municipalities to come up with what we saw were the projections for all those categories that I mentioned: multifamily, commercial, institutional, and so on. And then we looked at our capital projects and determined what the cost of the capital projects and what amount is allocated to this new development. And then and based on this information, then we calculated new DCC rates. We then reviewed this with municipal staff on a couple of different occasions, and we reviewed it with municipal staff. I have a typo on my sheet, but I didn't go up there. That's what I panicked for a second. Now moving into the capital projects. So the major capital project we have underway right now, and so it's underway from a design perspective. Design we're essentially at 100% design. We have done a pre-selection with contractors to actually build this facility, and we were looking at putting it out October 28th, putting this project out with the closing in the new year, and then it'll be a 2.5-year project to completion. It is a $78 million project, and with this project, 40% relates to capacity. So there's many things associated with this. This is an upgrade expansion, but as well as this plant is a 1973 plant. And while we're doing this, we're including a whole bunch of other projects within that. So 40% is going to be that. One of the other things too is any upgrade. So we're going from a primary treatment plant to a secondary treatment plant. everybody pays for that. That's an upgrade in treatment level, and that's paid for by everyone. So this is another project. It was initially to be carried out in advance of secondary. However, there was enough cost savings, and there was other implications in terms of putting in this project and making sure that we were addressing other things that will come up as part of the secondary treatment plant. We decided to delay this or include it as part of the secondary project. So we have another project. It's basically what it is it takes the solids from the treatment process, so the treated solids, and dewaters them so that they can be used for land application. And through our land application plan, we currently they go up to the VIU woodlot as part of their forest fertilization project. The the two photos here, we had changed out one of them in 2008. So the old belt filter press was pulled out in 2008, and we put in a new centrifuge. So old technology, new technology, less energy to run it, and sort of a cleaner, tidier operation, as well as additional capacity. So this one's a 50-50 split. On Friday, not 2 Fridays ago, not last Friday, the Friday before, we got notice that we received just over $1 million grant for this project. So good news for that. The numbers don't reflect that, but that will, from the DCC, will spread it both existing and DCC. That'll reduce the DCC component to $200,000. So the next project is the Departure Bay Force Main. Some of you may be aware that we replaced the outfall this summer. It was actually
It floated by.
It floated by. It was a pretty exciting project. Same vintage pipe with the force main, however not as harsh an environment. But it is, we do have concerns with the condition, and we are continuing to monitor the condition, but we do have it on the books for 2026. That may change as we do additional condition assessments, may come forward, maybe put back. This will be the replacement of aging infrastructure, but at the same time we'll be upsizing that infrastructure. So this will be a 50-50 split. There's a drawing here, really hard to see. It's the original construction drawing. It shows the routing of that force main. A large component of it goes up the Hammond Bay corridor, right down the middle of the road in certain spots. So as we move forward, we will be working closely with the City of Nanaimo to look at efficiencies in advancing this project. And next is this is the DCC rates that we're proposing. The current rates are, and I'll just refer to the single family here, but $2,272, and we went to $2,950. But now this doesn't include the grant that we've received. So we showed a 30% increase. It'll be closer to a 29% increase for that. And it's consistent across the board. We again work closely with the City of Nanaimo in terms of what they determined was the capacity of development within the City of Nanaimo to come up with these per unit cost and per square meter costs. And then the final slide here is just our schedule. So here we have the start of the project in 2015. We've updated the data, and we did this both for north and south. So, but obviously talking about south here, we met with District of Landsville staff. We're here now. Then from there, the idea is it will go to the board in the fall, the RDM board in the fall for first and second reading. And then early in the new year, public consultation. And then third reading and adoption in the spring with likely a 6-month period for any in-stream applications. So that's... Okay. Any questions?
Councillor Gesler.
Yeah, I'm fairly confused. Who collects this DCC? Is it District of Lanceville, or is it the RDN, and how is it collected?
So typically, and I maybe didn't explain it well at the beginning, typically it's for when a property subdivides. That's the majority of the time. When a property is subdivided, it's those DCCs are collected for whatever that development might be. And it is, in the case of Lanceville, it is collected by the RDN. So RDN Development Services staff collect those DCCs.
Well, we're going through a process right now of DCCs, so are the numbers we're seeing, the proposed numbers for our DCCs, including the RDN, or is this will be something supplementary on top of the Lanceville DCCs?
It's on top of it. We're working on a DCC bylaw for our infrastructure. Separately from that is the regional district infrastructure.
So if I subdivide my property, I'll get a bill from the District of Lanceville, one from the RDN. Is there anybody else I'll get a bill from?
Not off the top of my head.
And so my
Probably from your lawyer.
Oh, yeah. Supplementary question. From whom did you get $1 million grant? Because I didn't think they were being passed out just yet.
The exact, Randy, it was,
I believe it was part of the clean water and wastewater program that was announced at EBC. I believe the RDN had applied through the regular BC infrastructure program, and then with the opening of this program, they flipped the grant over to the clean and wastewater grant fund program, which is a provincial federal program.
It was open in April, wasn't it?
It was included as part of the federal budget in April 2016. The agreement between the province and the feds was signed at UBCM.
So the RDN gets their money before little fish like Lanceville might get theirs. Is that how it works?
Yeah. Any further questions?
Thanks, Bob.
Councillor Hayman.
I've got a few, and I can come back after other people. Just on the grant, first off, thank you for coming. I find this stuff interesting, so it's great. I did sit on the sewer committee for years. On the grant, will you get the BC component now at all? The 33% from the province too?
The grant is the combined.
Oh, is it both?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's a combined program administered by the province.
Oh, okay.
so the amount we got was 66%. That was we contributed 33% to it.
Yeah. That grant program is actually up to 83%.
Yeah.
But individual applications were kind of said, look, we can give you this much, and so some of the percentages aren't the full 83%.
Okay, and a couple more. So, under your classification, what does a seniors complex qualify as? Is that considered commercial, multifamily, single family? Do you know off the top of your head?
So are you talking about the affordable housing seniors complex?
No, if you just do a seniors complex in Lanceville.
So you've got the table 4 in the staff report?
Yeah. Thank you.
I don't know if it qualifies under institutional or multifamily, depending on the nature of the care.
That's a good question. I'm not seeing it in the definitions of the bylaw.
You can get back to me.
Is there a specific reason?
I'm just curious because, again, it's a topic we're going to have again next week at our DCC review, so just try to get an answer ahead of time.
Okay.
Sorry, and may I ask, whereabouts did you see it in the staff report?
Well, I just see it. I don't see it that identified. I'm just curious as to what type of classification it would have.
Okay, unless it is affordable housing,
Yeah.
It would be charged whatever category it falls under. And seniors development would be multifamily.
Okay.
So it would be under the multifamily.
Okay. And then just one more, and then I'll take a break. So you said this DCC bylaw applies to all subdivisions and development. So that would include the foothills
Any subdivisions that are within the sewer service area.
Which they're going to be.
Yeah.
So they would pay this DCC charge.
If it is a subdivision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Colclough.
Thank you. Yeah, could you just give a real brief description of what you are referring to when you say affordable housing? Example?
There is a definition within the bylaw, and it's defined by the province of British Columbia. So we followed that definition, we've included it into the bylaw. So it needs to be owned by a not-for-profit society, and there's a certain percentage of funding that needs to be received from the provincial government to recognize that, and I believe an agreement has to be in place as well with the provincial government.
Just a comment there. I was noticing your photographs. I don't know if you saw that, but I put the film filter press in.
I was going to say that. I didn't want to single you out, but yeah, I know that.
It's already breaking.
How old I am.
Further questions? Councillor Coulson?
Sorry, it's not directly to DCCs. Technology question. What kind of solids percent comes off the centrifuge?
27 to 31%. Now, that sounds like a lot of moisture in it, but it's actually soil-like consistency.
Yeah.
It looks like if you go up and get some fish compost, it's the same type of soil. It looks like that, same type of consistency.
Okay. And so with that product now, will you still be, you won't be spraying it up in the VIU facility anymore, then I take it?
No.
It'll be dry applied, or will it be going elsewhere? Or?
Spraying is a legacy that we can never lose.
Don't go there.
In that, do you mind if I just
Go ahead.
very
Give me
quickly?
the history.
In 1992, UBC and Metrovan had a pilot program that they used RDM biosolids. And what they did is they took those biosolids at 20 whatever percent. Actually, you were around here, you don't actually know very much about that. And they liquefied them. And then they had a water cannon and they sprayed it. And that happened at that one test with the university, but the legacy continues. We don't, it hasn't been done that way since.
Oh,
It's,
They don't like the word spray.
yeah.
how's it done?
It's not great.
It's fun now, or?
It actually, yes. There's a track machine that is loaded, and it is discharged out the side. And
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Heem.
Just two more. One, I'm happy about the secondary treatment. That's been a long time coming, so it's nice to see kind of an end date for that, even though it is expensive. It's a good thing. Secondly, I get a lot of residents asking me about the biosolid issue up in Dumont area. I was on the biosolid committee when that came in, and it wasn't a very popular topic. The riders and the hikers and all that don't like it. Is there any chance of us ever getting that out of there or stopping the spreading up in the Dumont area?
there is. We have an agreement that expires this spring, and we are looking at other alternatives. That program is an award-winning program. It has been piloted and looked at as sort of a case study as how to beneficially reuse biosolids. It's part of the VIU forestry program, and it's a program that's worked very well and very effectively, and it has early day legacies to it, and one of them was, obviously with the spraying, and then maybe initially not the level of notification that was required. We do work with the Mountain Bike Association, with VIU and Silvis Environmental. It's the environmental firm that we work with. There is yearly meetings, as well as I believe every time there's an application, there's a notification and constant communication with the Mountain Bike Association, as well as we provide maps to where applications are going, and the Mountain Bike Association puts those maps onto their mountain bike site. So it is a program that's come a long way. It is. And as I said, it is award-winning. So we'd like to see it continue up there, but we are looking at alternatives for sure.
Thank you.
Councillor Colclough.
Well, just to add to that, I think it's important to point out that you're not getting rid of the material in the forest. It's actually very, very beneficial to the forest. And people need to be aware that their majority of forests on Vancouver Island are severely short of organic matter and nutrients, and that's one method of improving on that.
Yes.
Just on the notification side, years ago, the district used to receive notification from the forestry program at VIU, and it was, I can't remember the name of the guy, it was before Barry Austrian. And that was beneficial, because we could allow the public to know that this is going to be going on from this date and that date, certain aspect, but I don't recall seeing that since maybe 2010.
Let me confirm. You should. Yeah, that should continue.
Yeah.
I'll follow up on that.
Okay, thank you. And not that I think VIU is hiding anything or anything like that, it's just like, not sure if it's just kind of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah. I can't say one way or the other. But I do know, we did send it on a regular basis.
Councillor Coulson?
It's probably not the place here to talk about, but I'd be interested more in talking about the biosolids disposal, because I did some research into that. It's interesting to compare what the U.S. does, Environmental Protection Agency, and what they allow for substrate depth before you apply biosolids versus what's up in the forest there. So anyways, I won't get into it here, but there's some notable differences, and some residents are concerned about breakthrough of some of the heavier components in the biosolids. So, yeah. I don't know, is that something we just chat directly with someone at the RDN, or is that...
Sure. We do follow the organic matter recycling regulation for the application.
Yep.
And they do set limits. Background limits are reviewed, and then the quality of the biosolids are reviewed. And after the application, they look at what the loading is, and there's a determination as to whether they can reapply or when they can reapply based on what the loading is on it. In addition to that, we have done two. We've had a hydrologist go up and do some examination of migration of water on the surface and subsurface.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay, anything related to DCCs? Okay. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Randy, thank you very much for coming up. On to Mayor and Council level updates. Councillor Gizmer.
Nothing to report?
Councillor Olson.
Yeah, something. Don't know how many of us are aware of what happened at the school this year regarding the number of divisions they ended up with. So there was quite an evolution over a period of time, and I might still have the final facts wrong, but from what I understand right now is the school was one student short of getting another division. And so right now, every class other than 1 4-5 split is completely full. There's room for one more student at that school. It's a little concerning, I think, given kind of we're an outlier community of Nanaimo in many ways. Years previously when this happened, when new families moved to Lantzville, they were turned away from the school. I know when we were having the issue with the buses most recently, there was some talk of improved communication between the school board and Lantzville Council. I would like to see us include, division planning maybe as part of that as well. I don't know if we can really offer much or just support for additional divisions, but as it is now, people will be moving here and they'll be turned away. And that's not a very nice welcome to Lantzville for families. So.
Okay. Councillor Neary.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to report that I attended the UDCM convention, the 2016 convention, not last week, the week before. Interesting experience. I found it's a very complex program, packed in, somewhat fragmented because I think the numbers that are being accommodated makes it very difficult to give a really strong, systematic program. It just seems like there's a lot going on, an awful lot going on. Attended some excellent workshops. The workshops surprised me somewhat. They were more like plenary sessions of panels, usually, talking heads. I'm not used to that. I expected breakout sessions and that kind of thing. That wasn't the format, so that took me by surprise. Attended quite a few sessions. One was on asset management planning, infrastructure in the future. One was on affordable housing. The best workshop I attended was actually at the very beginning of the week, Understanding the Village, which was an experiential workshop held in Esquimalt at the Songhees First Nation. It was a very powerful experience. If anyone ever gets the opportunity to attend a workshop of this nature, I would highly recommend it. A very moving and powerful experience. As you probably already know, it was announced that $400 million is available and being released. 450, particularly for the water and waste water management. That 35 Building Canada Fund applications were approved, like that. I don't know whether we are one of them, because we do have an application in there, but as far as I know, we haven't heard anything yet for our sewer application, so I guess we'll just have to sit tight and wait and see what comes our way. I won't go on because I could sit and bore you to tears all night.
Councillor Coppola.
Just once again, similar. I won't repeat everything Councillor Neary said about UBCM. I'll say comments, particularly around understanding the village. That wasn't what I expected at all, but it was extremely worthwhile. It was a very good day. The only other addition is the program was somewhat broken up by our meetings as well with ministers and senior staff, which included Councillor Hain and Mayor as well, which I think were, you do what you can do, and I thought it went very well, so I thought it all went well.
Councillor Hain.
I got a few things. Yeah, I had the opportunity to go down. I didn't attend the UBCM conference, but I did go down to meet with the ministers. So it was nice to meet with Minister Corley Oakes, who's the Minister of Small Business, the Chief of Staff for the Premier, and Minister Mary Pollock, who's the Minister of Environment. The nice part about meeting with these individuals was, one, Minister Corley Oakes gave us lots of information on grant programs that were out there, especially one for an economic grant to do a strategy analysis for our own village board, which I think is really important. And then the meeting with Minister Mary Pollock allowed us to do a pitch for our Phase 3 sewer application, which they say hopefully will be approved in March 2017 in time for the next election. And then the last one, meeting with the Chief of Staff for the Premier's office, was nice because meeting with all three ministers from my personal perspective was nice, because it also gave me personally and other members of council an opportunity to thank these ministers for supporting the council back in April 2015 when there were all the resignations. It was nice that they backed us and gave us quorum and allowed us to carry on and function as a district. So it was really nice to be able to give them that thank you and let them know that their faith was well placed. So that was very nice for me. Secondly, and I know they've already received a thank you, but I personally also want to thank Ken and Pat Magnuson, who have been the champions of the ESS program in this community since the time it began. They have done an awesome job. They're incredible leaders. It's a real loss to the community to not have them running this program. I really don't know who's going to step in and fill those huge shoes, because they really did a phenomenal job. And they kept the group focused and on track. So that was good. My last one is just based on the request by a number of residents. I move that full legal opinion from Fulton & Company be released publicly.
Second by Councillor Coulson.
Yeah, speaking to that, and this is basically the reason I'm making the motion is because it's all over social media and it's been in the paper. So residents would like to know what the legal opinion had to say. So why not let them know? The previous council released the previous conflict of interest legal opinion in June 2013, and they had no issues with releasing it. So the question people are having is, why are we having a problem with releasing it? one resident brought up a very good point about our new strategic policy we adopted with regards to accountability, transparency, and public engagement. We made a promise, we made this our #1 priority that we were going to do this, and then our first opportunity to do that, we say, no, we don't want to do that. So it doesn't bode well for us doing what we say we're going to do. So I just think we need to release the legal opinion in its entirety and let the residents read it and make their own decisions on its content. Why wouldn't we? And a recorded vote.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Councillor Swain?
Through you, the chair, I'd like to actually postpone this motion. I think having this motion jumped on, being brought up on the fly like this does only give us any real time to actually consider and prepare to actually debate this motion. So I make the recommendation to actually postpone to a later date.
Can we get more specific on a date?
Next council meeting would be fine by me.
Okay. So motion to defer or postpone with a seconder? Failed due to a lack of a seconder. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Councillor Hain, Councillor Coulson, Mayor Hain, opposed? Councillor Gilbert, Councillor Neary, Councillor Colclough, and Councillor Swain. Motion defeated. Any further, Councillor Hain?
That is it. Thank you very much.
Councillor Swain.
So through the chair, as part of my community update, just to piggyback on Councillor Coulson's comments regarding the CBL entry, actually did a little bit of digging into the BC Ministry of Education and some stats, because there seems to be some confusion in the community or a willingness to have some information about enrollment. So in the last 5 school years, there actually has been a 17% increase in enrollment at CU. So between 2011, or the school year 2011-2012, there was 221 students, and then last school year, the 2015-16 year, there's 259. With respect to this year's enrollment, as a recent head count as of last week from the current principal, Cooper, there's a 0% increase, so it's 259. So, I think the concern I have here is with our OCP review underway, I think we really need to consider this information in determining what the direction our community is going to be. So I think there's some key things that we need to be looking at and facilitating development within our community to make sure we actually have a community school. Without our community school, I think we're in some serious trouble. Thank you.
Councillor Neary?
Oh, thank you. I can't recall what the capacity is at CU. I think it's in excess of 300. So they have some way to go before they will reach capacity. The only comment I would make, based on my experience, my past experience with the school board, is that if the enrollment is progressively increasing, I don't think we need to worry about losing our schools, especially when you've got 260 students in there. I think sometimes the struggle with divisions is not so much numbers in total, it's more to do with the balance of the numbers in the different grades. So trying to balance those numbers out and staff the school as efficiently as possible is where they come up against the barrier. And it's too bad that they were 1 student short of a division, because that's a teacher. So I can hear, I hear what's just been said. I think it is a concern for a lot of communities. I shouldn't say this, but I don't think we should be too concerned at this stage. But if that growth continues, and it's charted, it's actually predicted to continue. The turnaround happened around this year, 2015, 2016. That has been forecast for a long time. And for the first time, I think School District 68, its overall enrollment, I think, is either even Stevens or it's up. And that's the first time in probably about 15, 16 years.
Yeah, just to follow up real quick. Principal Greg Halfyard actually plotted this out back in 2012 when he was principal. I met with him back when I was on CU PAC. And they knew when it was going to bottom out, and they knew it was going to climb, and it's exactly following what they had figured it was going to do. There's no chance that school's going to close. And in fact, now with the turnover of houses and young families coming in, I don't see it happening.
Councillor Swain.
Not to turn this into a debate, but I struggle with the concept of the starter home on Lanceville Road starting at 500,000. So I think in terms of our OCP coming up, our community really needs to determine, what direction we're going. Because again, a starter home at 500,000, I struggle with.
Okay. Thank you. For myself, updates, the comments with respect to the meeting with Coralie Oates with regards to economic development was a very positive meeting. Thoroughly enjoyed the discussion, the information, and it did give me an opportunity to personally thank her as she was the minister at the time with regards to last year. One key thing is each of these meetings gave us the opportunity to plug the aspect of the sewer grant. And no, we're not part of that phase. They flipped, as the RDN did, they flipped a number of applications out of one program into that program. So with regards to the comment about in time for the election, just for clarification, that was the provincial election, not the municipal election for 2017. But like I said, very positive. The one that surprised me the most with respect to it was the economic development side. The comments of the minister there and the suggestions were very constructive in that regards. So those meetings were, like I said, a really good opportunity to share some ideas with them. And I'd like to also express publicly with regards to what Councillor Haim has mentioned about the volunteers' efforts for the emergency social services of Ken and Pat Magnuson. Until just recently, I was part of the emergency social services side just because of work commitments. I can't carry the emergency bag right now. But these individuals went way beyond what was expected initially when they were kind of drafted to kind of lead the charge to creation of a new volunteer group in conjunction with Jeannie Drew at the RDN. And to put it simply, they kind of lived, ate, and breathed ESS for a period of time. So I said there's no way we can thank them for the time that they put in setting it up. So that, for example, like if there's flooding this weekend, there's a group ready to be called to work on dealing with the outfall on the social side, separate from the emergency side. So like I said, the time they put in was fantastic. Replacement, very difficult in that regard. So. Okay, next item, Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, September the 22nd, minutes and a recommendation coming out of it. Councillor Neary?
Thank you, Your Worship. The recommendation is that Council authorises staff to expend the Island Health Wellness Grant from the Regional District of Nanaimo in the sum of $3,900, which is projected. It's subject to the RDN's grant approval, but it's already been recommended through the Committee of the Whole. So, subject to the idea that we do receive it, that we put it towards the District of Lanceville's 2016 Rotary Park Improvement Projects, which is the mountain bike circuit and playground equipment replacements as required or is required.
Second.
Second by Councillor Hain. Discussion. Councillor Swain.
Through the chair, just a quick question about the actual grant. Actually, who applied for it? Or I guess it's Councillor Neary.
Sorry, I was reminded about this by someone today. It's a large grant that's just basically provided by Island Health to municipalities. There was, I can't remember off the top of my head what the total was that was available. And it goes through the RDN and it's divided between the different communities within the RDN according to, I think generally according to population base proportionally. I don't know whether that will change. I've been told there's a possibility it might, but that's really beside the point. And the purpose is very broad based. It's anything connected with health and well-being within the community. So most municipalities, most districts, most areas within the districts have projects that they can, put forward that are covered by these particular parameters. We have been recommended for an award of $3,900, and in anticipation of that being approved by the RDN, Parks and Rec Commission decided they would recommend that this money be earmarked for this project, should it be needed, because there's a possibility there'll be overages, and I think it's a good cushion, and that project qualifies for this grant.
Thank you.
Just a little more background, there's about 154,000 or something came through VHA to the regional district.
Thank you.
As Councillor Neary's pointed out, the initial allocation has been based on population. When it comes to the standpoint of the possibility of changing that, there were concerns about, how do we vet things and how do we decide which is eligible versus, or entitled versus not, which is why they left it as a population at this point. Organizations like City of Nanaimo have geared it more towards program funding type aspects as opposed to infrastructure aspects, but they have their Parks and Rec programs where it's much easier to do that with infrastructure already in place or organization already in place. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Fire Chief's 2016 third quarter report. Move receipt by Councillor Hain. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Coulson. Discussion. Hard questions for the chief. Anything? Wow. Oh, Councillor Hain.
Thank you. Through you to the fire chief, I want to thank you and your members for all their hard work. It looks like you had a bit slower summer, which was kind of nice. And my question is around what are our recruit numbers and new trainee numbers looking at right now?
Through the chair, to answer Councillor's question, we have 3 recruits that are about 6 weeks away from finishing their current probation. In the new year, I'd like us to do another recruitment, but we have to revisit our recruiting process.
Further comments, questions? Just for myself, with regards to the information on the break-in at the hall, so the motion detectors are now fully functional?
Yes, through the chair, the motion detectors that were in place were not installed correctly. So we've beefed up the security in the hall, which is where the major assets are, and hopefully, recurrence.
And I'm just curious about the old oak barrel.
It was actually in the garbage.
Really?
Yeah, it was, and that and an old pair of leather boots, and so.
Yeah, a little bit different profiling there with regards to...
All I can say is, you know what, if somebody was going to enter and that's all they took.
Hey, that's great.
We were lucky.
Councillor Gilderoy.
Through the chair to the chief, is this break-in indicative or related at all to the increasing number? All right. Is this break-in related to the increasing number of homeless that have taken to camping out in the industrial area close to Ware Road or further down Ware Road and Lanceville Road? And have you made any inquiries with the either the RCMP or with the regional district by law enforcement officers?
Through the chair, the RCMP had no information for us. They feel that it was a crime of opportunity, most likely somebody not in a vehicle, but no other further information.
Sorry.
So, see somebody walking down the road with an oak barrel. Okay. Anything further? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, on to bylaws. With regards to the Regional Parks and Trails Parcel Tax and Assessment Roll Preparation Bylaw 56, 2007, Amendment Bylaw number 133, 2016. Councillor Swain, adoption, I believe. Seconded by Councillor Hain. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're on to financial plan bylaw number 120, 2016, amendment bylaw number 134, 2016. The first reading by Councillor Neary, seconded by Councillor Colclough. Discussion. Councillor Coulson.
I won't be supporting this due to the presence of the funds for the water interconnection appearing in 2016.
Okay.
Not to rehash the argument, this is not the right time to be doing this. So.
Okay. Councillor Hain.
Just with regards to the Mine Town Day event, will council be getting an accounting of the revenue and expenses for the day soon?
The intent is to staff provide a commission at their October meeting, and then it will come through. I think we received one of the final bills today, so we're waiting for a couple of bills still. I think we'll kind of double check. I might have one more, and then yeah, I know the recycled one came in today, so we're very close.
And then, one more. Under the audio video equipment, is that going to include the phone system for the electronic meetings that we are looking at in our procedure bylaw? You know, so we're going to have a phone and all that. Will that be included in that?
It was not. It has not been costed yet, and that was a separate. Includes the recent changes that council authorized for the
Just the headsets.
the headsets. Yeah, those have not arrived yet, so they haven't been installed. We would hope to have them in time for this meeting, but it'll be that hopefully the next meeting.
Further comments, questions? Councillor Paulson.
Could we get recorded votes on all these three, please?
Okay.
All three.
You'll have to ask
Each
for
time?
them separately.
Okay.
Please. Further questions? Okay, I have a couple of questions, well, kind of all one related question from staff, or to staff. In terms of the interconnection costs, the $115,000 from the water development cost charges, was the interconnection pipe included in the projects originally identified that $115,000 was collected for? Oh yeah, I'm sorry, with all your, hang on, for the public, my mistake. Mr. Manson's here, a temporary CAO. We talked about him in our last meeting, but he's here in person today. Welcome, Mr. Manson. Mr. Manson.
If I may, Your Worship, to that question, no, you're not. It is not part of the DCC program. Because the amount of expenditure anticipated during 2016 is relatively small, it will be able to be funded from the other sources. This will be fixed for the 2017-2021 financial plan.
Okay. So now I've got a follow-up. The $413,000 from the Waterworks Reserve, were those funds only collected from those individuals that were currently on the water system?
If I may, Your Worship, I'm being told by the person to my left that yes.
Okay. And part of my struggle, $115,000 from a DCC charge pool, where the monies that went into it weren't part of that, so therefore there were other projects, other items that were included in the DCC bylaw that generated the $115 that's now being redirected to this. The $413,000, the bulk of it, more than 50% of the numbers, are coming from people that already have water. And we have no plan in place to recover those funds from new connections. But the bulk of the number is coming from people that have paid for the system as it stands now. So I really struggle with that aspect, because basically what it is it's saying there's a pot of money, let's use it, when it's something that wasn't planned for. Councillor Hain?
So, sorry, just for clarification for my benefit, We're asking existing residents that have already paid, and this is their safety net if something happens to their water lines, to now pay for water to go to developers, for a pipe for developers. Basically, that's what we're looking at. I can't support this. That just doesn't seem right. This is not the way it was presented. I was under the impression that this would be coming out of surplus, and now we're asking people who've already paid once to pay it again. That is not right. And there's no mechanism to recover this. I'd like to take this amount and divide it by the number of properties that are affected to see what they're being asked to pay now. Just doesn't seem right. And, when we know there's a grant funded program available that would give us 83 dollars. It just makes no sense.
Councillor Paulson.
Sorry to hop back to the 115 number. I'm not sure if I understood right. So it's the interconnection header was not on the prior DCC project list?
That's correct.
But it is on the upcoming one that we've not yet adopted.
If I may, Your Worship, it would be included in the one that's upcoming. For a little bit of clarification, we are looking at applying for a grant for this under this new grant program. So it will be, we will be applying for the grant, and the grant is applicable as long as no costs or to any costs that are incurred after the grant has been approved.
If we get it.
Sorry, so a follow-up on the DCC component again. Are we allowed to do that? I thought you had to submit your projects to the provincial government for review, and then the monies collected could then be used to projects that you identified on your DCC project list. So we're actually taking money now that we haven't even collected, essentially, to fund this pipe, if I'm understanding the flow right.
Money collected for other things.
If I might, a question to staff, whether monies that were collected based on a previous project list can be redirected to a different project.
If I may, Your Worship, the way the DCC program is put together is basically a mathematical exercise where you take the opening balance, whatever is there at the beginning of the new program, as part of the total funds that you would collect. That tells you how much still has to be collected when you subtract that from the new projects. That's the amount that you calculate your DCC on. So in answer to your question, it's whatever is in the pool is then allocated to the next set of projects.
But it's a set of projects that hasn't met DCC bylaw related to a set of projects that has not yet been.
It has to be something that is defined in your DCC bylaw before DCC funds can be directed towards it. So, as I said at the beginning of this, right now the financial plan shows $115,000 is coming out of the DCC reserve.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the financial plan says, we cannot use the $115,000 for any funding for this project. What I also know is that in between now and December the 31st, there will be minimal costs actually paid on this. So as far as 2016 is concerned, the funding from other sources is more than sufficient to cover the cost of the projects. Starting in 2017, or for your 2017 financial plan, it will have to be amended accordingly.
Okay. Councillor Guzman.
This bylaw, as I understand it, is to enable the implementation of the Nanaimo Landfill Water Agreement and to continue with the motion that was passed at the last council meeting that we tender the pipeline connection to the city of Nanaimo. through the chair to staff. Am I correct in that assumption?
If I may, Your Worship, based on the knowledge that I've been here for a grand total of 10 days, that is the understanding that I have at this point.
So supplementary, I'm speaking in favor of this bylaw, and I'll be speaking on all three readings in favor of it, that prior council in September of 2014 was successful in obtaining an agreement from the City of Nanaimo, and this council has decided to implement that agreement, and that was the intent of the last motion that we did at the last meeting. And I think it's fair to say that we need this bylaw in order to continue with that implementation of the Nanaimo Landspill Water Agreement.
Councillor Hain.
This has nothing to do with the implementation of the Nanaimo Water Agreement. This motion, when it came forward in September 2016, has strictly to do with connecting the pipe. Or actually not even connecting the pipe, it was building the pipe. So we said we weren't connecting at this time, we were just putting shovels and pipe in the ground. And at that time, it was made very clear by staff that the funding source would be surplus funds. My concern now, after listening to our CAO, is, if I heard you correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, you now have said that these funds aren't really going to be needed until 2017 to be expended, because we're not going to be there yet, is what I thought he said, no? Which is why we were going to amend the 2017 budget to accommodate that. But then, okay, so if I have that wrong, then my other concern is I thought I also heard you say that DC money can only be used for projects on the DC list. This project is not on the list. So it shouldn't be coming out of DCC funds. It should be coming out of surplus, because it's not on the list. So I think there's some confusion over what is correct government accounting for this.
If I might, Mr. Manson, the way I heard what you said is that portion related to DCCs would not be expended until such time as the bylaws were in place and approved for the DCC portion of it. The other pieces of which the District of Landspill is completely free to spend out of reserves as we see fit, that would be utilized initially to move the project forward. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Does that make sense, Councillor?
So are we still using the DCC fund for the $115,000? No. So where is that coming from now?
It would not be utilized until such time as the DCC bylaw is in place with the appropriate notations and approval from the province.
That's correct, Your Worship. Alternatively, and this would be part of your 2017 budget discussions, other surplus funds and/or the gas tax funds that you have available could be used.
So, okay.
Councillor Coulson?
So in order to comply with double entry accounting or whatever it's called, if we are moving $743,000 to 2016, we can't use the 115. Where's the entry to balance that?
Mr. Manson?
If I may, Your Worship, it is a budget item. The actual expenditures and the funding of them would come from existing reserves, either the gas tax or your water capital reserve. In essence, the gas tax is a grant. Your water capital reserves are accumulation of prior year surpluses.
But this isn't clear at all. So in the accounting world, though, we'll show $743,000 going to this.
In the accounting world, there's a budget and then there's actual.
Yep.
You're free to budget as if it's going to come out of DCCs with let's call it the hope the DCC bylaw and the provincial authorization would be in place prior to actually having to spend that 115. If that was not in place at the time that staff through the construction of the pipe wished to spend that 115, then we'd have to face another budget amendment to say we can't do that because we're not ready yet, but we can take it out of gas tax or surplus or waterworks reserve or those sorts of things. So you don't, for want of a better way to say it, you don't violate the law until you physically spend the money.
Okay.
Make sense?
Follow up? Should we also cancel the water master plan and take some of that money toward this?
We're going to take that as a rhetorical question. Further discussion. Okay, recorded vote has been requested. This is for first reading. All those in favor? Councillor Swain, Councillor Colclough, Councillor Neary, and Councillor Geselbrecht. Opposed? Councillor Hain, Mayor Hain, and Councillor Coulson. Motion carried. Going for second reading. Councillor Neary, move. Second by Councillor Geselbrecht. Discussion. Councillor Swain.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, Councillor Geselbrecht. I just handed it. Discussion on second reading.
Recorded vote, please.
And Councillor Hain.
Okay, just again to reiterate my concern about asking existing residents in the water system to pay for a pipe for developers. I think that's a bad idea.
Councillor Geselbrecht.
I take issue with that this pipe is for the benefit of the whole community, and so I'm voting in favor of it.
Further discussion. With respect, if it's for the whole community itself, when over 50% is coming from a select group that has built up reserves over the operation of the water system for multiple years, and I reiterate that there's no plan in place on putting that money back or giving credit to the existing residents for what they've done in the way of building up the system. It's not a discussion about whether or not the pipe's going to go into the ground. It's a question of where it should be paid for. And when it comes to the aspect of where that money's going to come from, there's the developer side, for example, okay, in terms of it. But what we're going to do is we're going to go around that, and instead of having a developer pay for a pipe that they should be paying for, we're having the existing residents pay for that pipe. And that's the reason for my opposition when it comes to the benefiting individuals and or developers should be the ones paying for it, not the people that currently have water. Any further discussion? Okay, second reading, recorded vote's been requested. All those in favor? Councillor Swain, Councillor Colclough, Councillor Neary, Councillor Geselbrecht. Opposed? Councillor Hain, Mayor Hain, and Councillor Coulson. Motion carried. Third reading. Councillor Swain and Councillor Neary. Any further discussion?
Recorded vote, please.
Councillor Hain.
And again, my final opposition to having existing residents paying for a pipe when they already have water for the benefit of developers is just wrong.
Councillor Coulson.
You can actually get some of the perversion in all this too by looking at the assist factors that are proposed in the new DCC table for this.
Point of order, Mayor. Point of order. There's no perversion. I'm not sure whether Councillor Coulson should be talking about perversion on this motion.
Councillor Coulson, do you wish to use other words?
No, perversion works, but I'm not allowed to use that. So this project itself, we're basically calling for over 50% from existing residents. But if I'm not mistaken, a 90% benefit factor was assigned to developers for the Nanaimo water interconnection. So right there, the math demonstrates what we're doing. It's not consistent.
Further discussion. And again, from my standpoint, there's no plan to put that money back. There's no opportunity when it comes to the aspect of people jumping on board, such as a developer, for example. There's no plan in place for them to replace that money. So they will be charged the same as any existing resident going forward, as opposed to the $413,000 that's projected to come out of the credits that are sitting there for the existing 892 water connections. Any further discussion? Hearing none, recorded vote's been requested. All those in favor? Councillor Swain, Councillor Colville, Councillor Neary, Councillor Geselbrecht. Opposed? Councillor Hain, Mayor Hayman, Councillor Coulson. Motion carried. Gets us to bylaw number 135, which is the property tax exemption bylaw for the next taxation year. So staff put together a report detailing the properties that are exempt or proposed to be exempt under the permissive tax exemptions portion of the provincial legislation. So, Councillor Swain, first reading?
Yes, I'll make first reading.
Okay. Seconded by somebody? Councillor Neary, thank you. Discussion. Councillor Swain.
Yeah, through the chair and the staff, I just had one question about asking rate and why that's not included on this list. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Through the chair to staff, just a question why Aspen Grove is not included on this list.
It's now actually provided through the, I don't know much of a voice.
Push it. Push the button.
The exemption is now provided through the province for the school, so we don't actually have to provide a permissive tax exemption anymore.
Okay. Oh.
Just a follow-up. So through the chair to staff again, so Bill 29 was passed? I did some extensive internet searches off to refine those techniques because I couldn't find anything personally. I know it was going to be passed, but I didn't know it officially passed. So it's been officially passed?
I would have to go back to council on that. It was my understanding that it was going to go through and that, but I can't say for certain that John.
Possibly Councillor Hain can provide some information there.
Yeah, thank you. Michelle Stillwell's office provided me with a copy of the royal assent. It did pass in May, June of this year, so I have copies of that. They told me you received them, so I didn't bother to forward them.
I did not, the office may have.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it did pass. It's not an issue now.
Councillor Geselbrecht, I believe you were waving earlier.
Yes, I see the Woodgrove Christian Community Church Society. And I thought that they were no longer the tenant, that the Seaside Community Association was the tenant now at that location and what's sometimes referred to as the Old Heritage Church. Through the chair to staff.
I believe we accept the property, not the owner. So regardless of whose name it's in, it's based on the property itself. Councillor Copeland?
Yes, I also believe from the recent report by the Seaside Community Society that the building is no longer sublet to Woodgrove Christian Community. It's actually there's a number of tenants in there, different times, different places. There's the daycare downstairs, etc. So even though it is somewhat irrelevant to the point, just a bit of clarification.
Does that answer your questions, Councillor Ginsberg?
Well, why do we have that name there then? Wouldn't we just put District of Lanceville? They own the property. And I would prefer to see that to give a better to the public that it's our building that's getting the tax exemption, similar to what's referred to as the tennis court property as well as Costin Hall. I mean, those are just commonly used names, but those all three are owned by the District of Lanceville. And why wouldn't we use that designation?
Question to staff. Recognizing when it comes to the bylaw side of things, the bylaw itself does mention the organization. It does list the roll number, legal description, and the owner itself, but it's got the designation there, such as tennis court property, etc. Does that in any way, shape, or form change the legality of the exemption?
No, it would not.
Okay. Councillor Hayne?
I believe, for clarification for Council Gesselbrecht, it still goes by the name of the Heritage Church. We never did change the name, so that makes sense to me, then I can identify with that building, so I have no problem with that. I have a more general question for staff, just so I understand. I know we have, under the community charter, we are not allowed to provide assistance to a business or a commercial operation, but we have commercial operations happening at both Coston Hall and St. Philip's Anglican Church. How does that impact our property tax exemption? Because indirectly, we're giving assistance to a business. And other businesses in the community may say, well, I'd like that assistance, because theoretically now we've made part of those facilities commercial entities.
If I may, Your Worship, this is a issue that another community that I'm rather familiar with has gone through. It is something that the council and the other community, in essence, created a permissive tax exemption policy to deal exactly with this type of thing. The trouble with trying to implement or do something like this, basically at the 11th hour, 59th minute, because the bylaw has to be approved by October the 31st for the exemptions to take effect in 2017. It gives no opportunity for the organizations to respond to statements or thoughts just like this. Oftentimes, not-for-profit groups use such activities to gain revenues for their not-for-profit activities. So yes, it could be a for-profit activity, but the funds gained from that activity are put right back into other not-for-profit activities. So I think if this is something that council wishes to look at, by all means do it, but do it for the 2018 period to give the organizations the opportunity to respond with how they're using their funds. Otherwise, what will happen, and I've seen it before, you will not allow the grant. The organization will come in and say, well, this is what we use it for. Oh, well, we should have given you the grant. But it's after the fact. So to rectify, you end up giving them a grant in aid. The permissive exemption exempts them from all taxation, not just the municipal taxation, but all taxation. A grant in aid would then, in essence, end up paying the other taxing jurisdictions, not just the municipal portion. So by all means, I think it's something that you should look at if it's council's wish. But it's too late to do it for this year is my sage advice.
A supplemental? I agree with you. I'm not looking to raise a hornet's nest for 2017. It's just an issue that's been brought forward by competing businesses in the community that are questioning the equity and fairness of it. So I would be curious to see a report and perhaps what other municipalities do in these situations, perhaps in 2017, and we can look at that issue, because it is a valid point.
Councillor Neary.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship. I was going to suggest, I can move it if I need to, but I was going to suggest that in the interest of accuracy, that in the report, the phrase "and sublet to the Woodgrove Christian Community Church Society" is erased, deleted, because it is not, apparently it's not accurate. It's not sublet, they're just rent space.
Okay, now do note that we're actually discussing the first reading of the bylaw.
So
The motion, or
it doesn't include revenue, does it?
no, the bylaw sits on its own, right? So I understand your point about the report itself, and staff will take a note of that.
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Colclough.
I understand Councillor Hames' concern about the issue around giving a business assistance, but just because the district owns the building and doesn't pay any taxes doesn't mean they're giving them any break on the rent. So if we're charging market rates for the building, then there's no assistance going to the business.
Councillor Coulson.
I'll apologize for this. Island Corridor Foundation, it's one I've brought up the prior 2 years. It's over $17,000 we're giving in a tax exemption. We're slowly moving towards some clarity with what's going to happen with that organization. Do you have any updates you could offer? And I'll keep rambling. Right now, I think the ENN Trail is a little over 1 kilometer of roughly a 5-kilometer rail line coming through Lanceville. I have no problem with a prorated exemption, perhaps, based on the portion of that rail line we use for the trail, escalating if the trail expands and so forth. But to keep going on with this fairly lucrative exemption every year, I have trouble with that. Yeah.
Okay, update with respect to it. There was a report come out by a consultant who was hired by ADICC to report on the Island Corridor Foundation, its governance and its financial side. To put it simply, the report wasn't well received by the ICF side of things. On the regional district side, the regional district has said that we are not going to be funding the upgrades or the RDN portion of the upgrades to the rail. In addition to that, the RDN board has moved to return those monies to the residents from whence it was collected. Essentially a negative grant and aid collection sort of thing. It will go back on the taxation of the resident side, or a reduction of the taxation of the resident side. Having said all that, and I'm going by memory here because it's been a while since I've read it, I believe that the agreement between the Island Corridor Foundation and the District of Lanceville, which is a reflection of the agreements elsewhere, essentially has a clause that says, give us a tax exemption or we're sending you a bill for your trail. So it becomes a question of basically what line item do you want to show it? Do you want to show it as a reduction in revenue or an increase in expenses? The net effect is the same. Back when that was originally agreed to, it was like 5 years ago, right, in that respect. So it's, as an update, my read on it, again going by recollection, is you either exempt them or you're going to pay. Yep.
Is there any language about how much you have to pay, or is that open-ended?
I believe that section just makes reference to the actual taxation in general. It doesn't quote a number. Mr. Manson?
If I may, Your Worship, with respect to this, the report is possibly a little misleading. The actual bylaw is for the first 6 properties. Everything that's relating to the Island Corridor Foundation, previous council would have given them a 10-year exemption. So this bylaw is only relating to the first 6 properties.
However, I'm going by memory here, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Was there not some discussion last year about, well, no, it wasn't that. It was getting information on what the impact would be or the results, legal-wise or otherwise, if the council of the day moved to cancel that exemption.
Yeah. There was. I brought it up.
Okay. And I don't recall any outcomes specifically on that.
No.
So I'm not looking for guidance, just for information. Okay?
Yeah, I'll catch up later.
Okay. Anything further? So I believe we're on first reading of the exemptions. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Second reading. Moved by Councillor Neary, second by Councillor Swain. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Third reading. Councillor Swain, Councillor Kolkoff, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Councillor Coulson.
should I actually specifically make a motion requesting information on the implications around suspending a 10-year, the bylaw that gave a 10-year exemption?
Yeah, motion to direct. Oh,
Motion, if you'd like, I could just quickly answer. It is in a separate bylaw, and should council wish, we can repeal that bylaw at any point in time, removing that exemption.
with no legal ramifications?
That was the important part.
Ministry, it's this council's decision to repeal it.
Okay. But then that raises that thing that's rolling around in my head about, yeah, okay, we repeal it, but we cut a check anyway. And so I think that would be some of that information that because like I said, I'm going by memory here, so.
Yeah, there's the two components. One, yes, we can cancel it, but then what things has the ICF done based on that might get us in the legal glue? We needed some guidance there. And then the second one was the cost implications of the outline. Yeah.
One, I don't know, does staff need a direction on that, or is that staff direction, or something that staff can bring forward unilaterally? Because another thing kind of pops to my mind, and again, I don't recall the exact wording. I don't know whether or not we would be responsible for those other portions of taxes that ICF would end up paying above and beyond what's due to the DOL. Because there's the other portions, there's the portion that we collect, there's all those other ones, and I don't know whether or not that agreement spells out that we're not only responsible for that, we're responsible for the whole thing. And I don't expect staff to answer that off the top of their head in any way, shape, or form. Or fix batteries. So I would suggest to Councillor Coulson that direct staff to come forward with information with respect to the Island Corridor Foundation tax exemption and related implications related to our land lease or license to occupy or whatever it is.
Yes, please.
Oh, moved by Councillor Coulson. Seconded by Councillor Hain.
Direct staff to provide a report on implications
of the rescinding the tax exemption and the impacts revolving around the license to occupy or land lease or whatever it is in the way of an agreement.
Implications that would have on the district.
Sounds good to me. So that was moved by Councillor Coulson and seconded by Councillor Hain. Just further discussion?
Yeah, and I just reinforce, like, we haven't had a vote on this as a group, but to me, some prorated amount might make sense. So if that's also in your mind as you're reviewing the contracts, I think we'd reflect on that too, rather than just completely severing it and potentially walking away.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Which gets us into the new business motions and notice of motions. The first one up is Councillor Coulson.
So I move, whereas the subdivision application of Lone Tree Properties specifically references providing water connections to another property owner without approval or application to the District and Subdivision and Development Bylaw number 55, and whereas Amendment Bylaw number 55.1 was allegedly passed in 2006 in order to prevent the private buying, selling, or transferring of water connections within the community in conjunction with Water Supply and Connection Policy number 3007-3, and whereas in the past previous property owners have been advised that such connections or transfers are not permissible unless the properties are in a comprehensive development area. Therefore, be it resolved that Council directs staff to provide Council and the community with a report of the history of Subdivision and Development Bylaw number 55, 2005, Amendment Bylaw number 55.1, and the legality of Lone Tree Properties proposed actions in light of our current bylaws and policies.
Any seconder? Seconded by Councillor Hain. Discussion. Councillor Coulson.
So I think I'll actually submit these two pieces for the public record, but reading from 55.1 section 2, Now, if a connection to the municipal water system is not available, confirmation is required from a professional engineer that each new lot has the capacity to supply 3,400 liters of drinking water per day from a well. Each newly created lot as well must be serviced only and solely by a well located within the boundaries of the newly created parcel. Each well on a newly created parcel must meet Landsville's water provision standards. And so the other piece I'm referring to is from the November 6, 2015 Phase 1 Subdivision Application Report. And on page 6 of that report, it references the Colclough property. And it says, a co-development agreement has been created between Lone Tree and Bob Colclough, an owner of the adjacent parcel of land to the Panhandle. Colclough has authorized Lone Tree to act on his behalf for the purpose of subdividing his land in conjunction with that of Lone Tree. Third point, Lone Tree has agreed to service the Colclough lands with road, water, and sanitation hookups. So this creates an interesting scenario. So that's why I made this motion, to get some more guidance from staff on this matter.
Any further discussion? Mary?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. I'm looking to staff to see if anyone can shed some light on this resolution, because I find it somewhat perplexing.
You've been here 10 days, Mr. Manson.
I'm sorry, Your Worship, I simply
No.
I don't have
That's
that
right.
history.
That's right. Certainly the motion itself will allow staff the opportunity to research it and come forward with that information. Oh, that's where you said. I was looking over there for you, Frank.
Doing double duty tonight. Yeah, the only point that I wanted to make to council is the fact that, yes, we've had discussions with Lone Tree, and they have made an application for what they refer to as Phase 1A. But the other thing, through our discussions with them, they've asked us to hold up on processing their application because they are looking to revise that. And certainly, as I've indicated in past council meetings, when we review the revised application, when that comes in, we'll certainly review it in the context of all the bylaws, all the policies that are in place. And certainly, if they comply with all the bylaws at that point in time, certainly we'll continue with the processing of the application. Conversely, if they require an amendment to the bylaw or variance of some sort, at that point in time, we'll make them aware that we will have to have that discussion with council or bring that application to council. So I think at this point in time, I'd certainly like to wait until we see the revised application, and then we can provide all the information and answers that council is looking for with respect to this application.
Thank you.
Councillor Hain.
Just a couple questions. So are you saying then that the Storm Mountain Development is looking to remove that co-development agreement between them and Councillor Colclough?
I'm not in a position to speak for Lone Tree, but certainly, as a private landowner, they're free to have discussions with anyone they wish, whether that person is adjacent to them or not. That is their prerogative. And certainly, as they move forward their application, they're aware of all their rules and regulations and their bylaws. And like I say, once we see the revised plan, we'll evaluate accordingly.
Just a follow-up. Right now, the plan as it exists, and as a public document, shows that co-development agreement there, correct?
It makes reference to a co-development agreement, certainly.
Okay. Just to answer Councillor Mary's question, where 55-1 came from is back in 2006, we had a developer who wanted to buy water from another area of Landsville. So that's how this bylaw came into effect, the 55.1, is because the council of the day was concerned that we would be using water as a commodity throughout the community for people to further development by buying it.
Okay, recognizing the motion.
Yeah, I know. That's why I explained.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought you did. Okay. And then lastly, I would just like a recorded vote, please.
Councillor Colson.
Yeah, so just to clarify, I'm looking for a report on the information in front of us right now, not what may come. And so If Lone Tree is asking us to pause, I don't really care about that. Take it to a more generic level. Now, is any developer able to provide water across their boundaries, given with our bylaw 55.1? This has, I'll stop.
Okay.
Sorry.
Last time, Councillor Hain.
Yeah, and also could we, when they bring forward their next revised application, could you bring it to council, please, just to keep us up to date?
How about if just staff updates us for any further developments? I wouldn't expect staff to bring a full subdivision application to council.
Well, let us know when it's there.
Okay. Any further? The recorded vote has been requested. All those in favor of the motion? Councillor Hain, Mayor Hain, Councillor Coulson. Opposed? Councillor Colclough, Councillor Swain, Councillor Neary, and Councillor Desbrecht. Motion defeated. Councillor Coulson.
I move that council ask staff for a report addressing the process to follow when a councillor or councillor votes on an issue which they have previously declared a conflict on.
Second that.
Second by Councillor Hain. Discussion. Could you read it again, please, Councillor Coulson?
Kind of made it up between two things that are written. So I would like a staff report, motion for council to request a staff report addressing the process to follow when a councillor votes on an issue on which they previously declared a conflict.
Second by Councillor Hain. Discussion.
And could we have that staff report include both regular and in-camera meetings, please?
The same would apply regardless of whether it's an in-camera or whether it's a public.
Okay, thank you.
It's technically all still one meeting. Councillor Neary.
Thank you. Sorry to sound obtuse. Can I hear it again, please? I'm not sure I'm following the purpose or the intent of the motion.
Ms. Coates?
Yes?
Did you type in his motion?
That council asked staff for a report on the process to follow on when a member of council votes on an issue on which they have previously declared a conflict of interest.
Could you clarify what you mean by process to be followed?
So,
and by who?
I don't recall any guidance in the newbie councillor sessions on how to proceed with this. So we just had a discussion and a vote on a topic of which two councillors at the table had previously declared a conflict of interest on.
Was that in camera?
It was not.
It was January 2016.
Councillor Coulson, just clarify your motion itself.
Oh, sorry, I thought you meant the purpose for it.
Sorry, but I mean, you make reference to process, but process by who? Let's start there.
Well, how about any of us? The community charter is quite clear on the procedure around conflict of interest. Two councillors have previously excused themselves for matters pertaining to the foothills, yet we just had a vote on a topic pertaining to the foothills. Per the community charter, a legal opinion needs to be presented, I believe, for you to come back into the room to participate in a discussion of which you previously declared a conflict.
But your motion didn't have to do with process related to declaring a conflict. Your process was in relation to if, correct? Because I just want clarification on process, because if staff is going to prepare a report of some sort, they need to know, are they talking about the process, for example, before the process, after, and if so, by whom? Individuals or council?
So I guess it's during for the time frame because it's occurring.
Okay.
And I don't know. If I name names, well, I've already named names, so it doesn't matter.
It can be generic. With regards to the whom, are you talking about individual councillors or council?
Individual councillors.
Okay. Now, when it comes to individual councillors, they guide their own actions, whereas council guides the actions of the district. Maybe the best way to describe it. You can put both, and staff will probably reply just like I did, but I'm guessing.
I guess put both. I mean, this is well beyond my league, so I'm looking for some guidance on how we address this.
As a council?
As a council, sure.
Okay.
So for clarity for the minute taker, was it a friendly amendment that now it reads, the council asks staff for a report on the process for individual council members and council to follow when a member of council votes on an issue on which they previously declared a conflict of interest?
Does that cover your intent?
That'll work, thank you.
Okay, mover and seconder, okay with that clarification? Okay. Councillor Caldwell.
Yes, through you to Councillor Coulson and Councillor Hain. Just in the recent comments there referencing January 2016, I assume that you are directing this at me. The only conflict of interest, I believe, and I could be wrong, I've declared was with respect to the subdivision of the White House on the east side of my property. Is that what you're referring to?
No.
What are you referring to?
Now, keep in mind, Councillor Coulson has asked for generic process, not in relation to any specifics, correct?
Yes, I didn't come prepared to present to specifics.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Recorded vote's been requested. All those in favor of the motion? Oh, sorry, clarification, Councillor Neary.
I just want to say I'm going to vote in favour of this because I'm interested in seeing what comes back. I don't quite understand the thrust of this, but I'll support it because it seems staff do understand what's being requested. It's a process question. So for me, that would be an interesting report to hear.
Okay, Councillor Geselbrecht.
Lots of interesting things to look at. I don't believe this is one of them. And I'm going to make a motion that we postpone the vote on this motion to a subsequent meeting, and I've asked staff for, through the chair, when is the meeting after October the 25th?
November 14th.
I make a motion that we postpone the vote on this particular motion by Councillor Coulson until November the 14th, did you say?
You're the seconder? Seconded by Councillor Swain. No discussion on it? Recorded vote's been requested. All those in favor of the motion to postpone? Councillor Swain, Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Neary, and Councillor Geselbrecht. Opposed? Councillor Hain, Mayor Hain, and Councillor Coulson. Motion carried. Okay, that gets us to item 9B, Snanawas First Nation request for water access to Wallace Point. Councillor Caldwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I recently bumped into Chief Brett Edwards at the Nanoose First Nation, and he mentioned that he was trying to get a request in writing to us on this item, but in the end it turned out he was unable, so he asked that I present this, which I've done. This is Wallace Point, which is the tip of the Nanoose Peninsula, directly across from the Snanawas First Nation Reserve and across from Lanceville. The property there was for many, many years accessible to the public from the water. You can't get there from land because you'd have to go through the main gate of the Department of National Defence properties. But that was that access was withdrawn, I believe it was in the 1990s. And there's a push on now spearheaded by Chief Edwards of Snanawas First Nation to have that access reinstated. And that's not only access for Snanawas First Nation members, that's access for the residents of Lanceville and Nanoose and anybody else. It is a piece of property that is not currently used by Department of National Defence, and it would be a great asset for the residents of Lanceville as well as everybody else if we were able to access that and use it like other waterfront.
Seconded by Councillor Gisbert. Discussion. Councillor Heem.
Not, well, kind of related, but we can already use that water. There's a park, isn't there, across there? Isn't that what we're talking about?
No, there's not.
Oh,
No, there is a campground,
yeah.
but it's forces personnel only.
Oh,
And there's some picnic tables and that sort of stuff.
oh.
Further in, not right at the point, further in. Further discussion. Councillor Neary?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a question about this. I was given to understand, and it might be incorrect or it's out of date, that the Department of National Defence allows employees to use this property. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there's D&D access.
For recreational purposes?
Yeah, they said there's a bit of a campground and there's some picnic tables and that sort of stuff on the property, or on part of the property.
So, supplementary, next question is, Schnanass First Nations request for water access to Walls Point. Is that based on a claim that they have?
Brent Edwards came and presented to the Regional Parks and Trails Committee that I chair. This is not part of treaty. This is not part of a land claim per se. It is, however, some recognition of historical use. The reason why they came to the Regional Parks and Trails was looking at the aspect of, first off, support similar to this, but the second part was if in the future there could be some cooperation with respect to the property. So it's not between the RDN, Parks and Rec, or sorry, Regional Parks and Trails and the Nus First Nations.
And out of curiosity, what was the response to that?
Very positive. Yeah. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, 9C, Development Permit 7144 EB Road, Councillor Swain.
Through the chair. Whereas council considered a development permit application with variances for 7144 Abbey Road at the regular meeting of council held on July 25th, 2016, and whereas council approved development permit application number 3060-20 DP16-004 to accommodate a dwelling on the property located at 7144 Abbey Road, legally described as Lot 1 District, Lot 53 in the Nus District, Plan 22717, and located within the Development Permit Area 1 for water course protection, and Development Permit Area 4 coastal protection, including the following variances to Section 3.4.61, maximum number and size of the buildings and structures, height, District of Lanceville zoning bylaws number 60, 2005, from 8 meters to 9.8 meters, and Section 3.3.8, setback water courses, including C, District of Lanceville zoning bylaw number 60, 2005, from 15 meters to 10 meters. Now therefore be resolved that council directs staff to prepare a status report regarding the variances approved by council in relationship to development permit application number 3060-20 DP16-004, and further that staff provide council information regarding the site preparation in relation to the riparian zone of Narston Creek, including recommendations, if any, for council's consideration.
Seconded by Councillor Hain.
All
in one breath, too. Seconded by Councillor Hain. Discussion. Councillor Swain.
So speaking to the motion, a number of members of our community have expressed some concern regarding the impact of this development on the Narston Creek. I think what our community is looking for is any actions, if any, the District of Lanceville will be taking. At this point, the council has actually received an information email from staff regarding this issue, but I think in the sake of transparency with our community, I think we need to be posting a memo for the residents of Lanceville. So as just a question through to staff, I don't know if a report is really necessary. Would a memo suffice?
It's a little strange, staff on both sides of the room. I'm not really sure where to look at first.
If I may, Your Worship, this is really at council's discretion. It's council's motion requesting a report. If council is happy with the memo, that's fine as well. It's council's discretion.
Okay. Councillor Sweeney?
And just a follow-up, from where I sit, I think I'd be satisfied with a memo. I think it would be enough to address the concerns that are being brought forth, considering council already has it. I just think it's appropriate that this memo be shared with the residents, and it could be simply posted on the Lansville site. We have our Twitter feed and we have our Facebook feed, so it can be easily shared with our community.
Councillor Heem.
Thank you. A couple of questions for you to staff. The Mayor Haynes said he had contacted staff a couple weeks before the notification by residents. Was anything done at that time?
Yes, Your Worship, through the council. We've been aware of the problem for a while because there was an acknowledgement by the contractor that they exceeded the expectations that was outlined in the original vegetation plan. And that's the plan that was presented to council when we approved the development permit. The work was done during the window, so it was a dry time of the year. So at the time there was no water in the creek. And since that time we've had follow-up meetings with the ministry, and we continue to have dialogue with them. So we've contacted the ministry is responsible for fishing stream, and there's actually a couple of divisions, and their responsibilities differ. Whereas one division is responsible for below the high water mark of the creek, while another is responsible for the areas above the high water mark. And we've contacted those agencies. We've certainly met with the owner. And then they've acknowledged that yes, they went beyond what was originally proposed in the plan. We're working with a consultant, and she's put forward a revised vegetation plan, which is more robust than what was originally presented to council at the time. We've also made a requirement that they coastal security for those works, as well as we've talked about compensation, because there was a wildlife tree that was in that area, a bat habitat tree that and so there is a compensation program as well that we're working through with the property owner. As of Thursday, I was actually on the site with the enforcement officer for the province, and he was taking a look at the creek itself. And so all the agencies responsible are certainly aware of this file, and we're working with them on the appropriate steps. The biggest concern at this point in time is to make sure that the bank is stabilized enough so that there isn't any erosion given the rains that are coming. And so through my discussions with not only the consultant but also with the provincial officers, that's their concern as well. And so everybody's wanting to make sure that there's enough erosion protection in place to prevent sedimentation from going into that creek.
Just supplemental. Correct me if I'm wrong, Harriet, but I believe that the Parks and Rec Committee did plantings along that second section of the creek to try and enhance the fish habitat back in 2014. So we knew there was native vegetation there. One of my concerns is based on the boulders that to me appear to be right in the creek. I'm hoping it goes back because you can still see the original retaining wall that we had planted the plantings in. So it would be nice to see that go right back and put to the original retaining wall that was on the left-hand side. And hopefully, because it looks to me, and I think to a lot of residents, that the creek has been significantly narrowed through there because of all the boulders. So hopefully the plan is going to recognize that and pull it right back to where it was before. And then, and the plantings. And then secondly, are you going to address the fence height? Because it's really high.
So that's
We're not here to talk about fences.
But it's part of the
That
mission.
was part of the, that wasn't part of the variance.
Okay, well, I thought the height and setbacks, not.
It's the whole thing.
That's a separate issue, I think.
Mr. Lemchik?
Just to give you the 25% overview on that. In our discussions with the property owner, we've made them aware that we are concerned about the fence height, because it does look like it exceeds the dweller requirement. And so I've been in discussions with the building department at the regional district as they issue the building permits on behalf of Lanceville. As well, I'm waiting for information from the surveyor for the property owner to confirm what the actual height is. Because as you may be aware, when we do our height calculations, it's measured from natural grade, not finished grade.
Yeah.
So just to finish off the train of thought, once you get that information from the surveyor and you know exactly how high the fence is, the options available to the property owner are they lower the fence to meet the requirements of the bylaw, or secondly, they make application for a variance. Right? And obviously, there's no guarantees that they will get approval for that, and they're quite aware of that.
Thank you.
Councillor Coulson.
Thank you. A few questions to the staff. Do we know who the contractor was that did this work? Can I ask that?
With all due respect, does it matter? It goes to the property owner.
Okay. I'm curious. No, I'm going to say it. There's many stories in the contract. I'll be polite. Where exceeded works or permitted works are exceeded, and then the individual or individuals simply pay the remediation costs or fine or whatever.
You're not talking about this property specifically. You're talking in generalities.
In generalities. Specific to this one, and in general, what I would like to see is what are we going to do to help minimize this type of event from happening in the future?
And with regards to the motion, it does say including recommendations, if any, for council's consideration. And I would expect those recommendations to include not only things specific to this property, but also including to how do we handle this in the future. Because to be honest, I do find it a little bit strange that something like this is on our agenda this way, although I do understand the profile aspect of it. But bylaw enforcement and enforcement of the building side of things, and that is a regular operational thing. It's unless there's a need to change a policy or bylaw, it shouldn't be at our table. But I understand why this one is, because of its profile. But Councillor Wilson finished, then we'll go to Councillor Swain.
No, I'm good. Thanks. No.
Sorry, with all due respect, apparently I missed Councillor Cole.
Thank you. A couple of things. Some that have come up since in reverse order. I concur with Councillor Coulson here about looking at ways to make sure that requirements aren't accidentally overstepped. So, that's addressed in here, but it's certainly something that I was going to raise as well. I like the idea of a memo, particularly if it's a memo that can go out to council and be posted on the website right away. Getting information out to the public in a timely fashion is really important. This is just a good example of something that the public is very interested in, and I would like to see in the future that sort of thing be normal practice, that when there is an issue that's really raised its profile in the community and staff are in the position to provide an update or report or some information on it. We have social media now, I think we should be doing it. So I like the idea of doing it in a memo and getting it out ASAP rather than a report to council.
Councillor Swain.
Yeah, through the chair, just to clarify the intent of the motion, it is simply to provide information to the community.
Okay. Councillor Gilsbert.
So there's been a motion read, and there's been a second. However, if I understand Councillor Swain, he's now looking for a direction to staff to provide a report that can be posted in our various social media. And if that's correct, then perhaps the motion could be tailored or amended to reflect that.
Councillor Swain?
Yes, we kind of got off track. So yes, when I asked staff for whether or not they think they could do this in a memo, basically I was looking to possibly amend the motion. So if I can amend my own motion, then I'll do it as such. So it's taking out the word status report and simply replacing it with memo.
Friendly amendment?
Is everybody okay with a friendly amendment to change that word?
Yes.
No opposition? Okay. Councillor Hain?
Sorry, that would be
Yeah, but also in the last clause, there's a reference to providing council with information, including recommendations.
Yes.
Council's consideration, or is that a separate report, or is that?
Through the chair to staff, so when I was looking at this in terms of considering a memo, it did occur to me that we'd likely maybe have to split this motion into two separate motions.
It doesn't prevent staff from doing something for public consumption as separate recommendations going forward. But
unless staff thinks that they can do both in the same, I'm fine with that as well.
Mr. Nansen?
If I may, Your Worship, with respect to that part of the motion, it's rather open-ended, and there's not a lot of direction as to the criteria or the will of council of what they're actually looking for. To the best of my knowledge right now, within our bylaws and legislation, the District of Westfield has little or no power over this. If there's any punitive action to be taken, it must be taken by the provincial authorities. All we really have is the development permit itself. Normally, to ensure compliance with the development permits, a district or a municipality, local government would take some sort of security letter credit, cash deposit equal to the works that are to be done, plus some additional to ensure that the works that are approved by the development permit are in fact done. There's nothing contemplated for any punitive action. So if that's what council is thinking about, I think we at the staff level would need some more clarification as to what level.
Councillor Swain?
Yes, through the chair. Again, when I was looking at writing this motion, I was well aware that the District of Lionsville can basically take very little action in this case, and I just think it's important that the community is aware of that, because I think there's members of the community that actually could possibly think that this council can actually do more than what we can actually do.
Councillor Coulson and Councillor Hain.
So that's an interesting point, though, because what we are doing is approving development permits to even get this type of ball in progress. So to approve such a thing and then to kind of, in a manner of speaking, wash our hands of it, that's not very satisfying, I would suggest. So I don't know if punitive, I'm looking for advice on what can be done. Might be punitive, might be stronger monitoring that we can implement as part of the development permit. I don't know. This isn't my thing, but to think that we can just approve this, and if something happens untoward, well, sorry, don't let it happen again. I'm not comfortable with that.
Well, I think in terms of process, the idea, for example, of security for works, we have no security for the works as they were presented within the development permit originally. Now we're considering the possibility of getting security for the works that need to be done. One of the things, for example, that staff could report back on is what we need to do to put in place a process so that at the time of the issuance of the development permit that we have some form of a security or guarantee. Mr. Manson?
If I may, Your Worship, what I would suggest is changing it something to the effect of staff reporting back on the mechanisms available to council for further control of development permits or something to that nature.
Councillor Swain?
Yeah, through the chair to staff, and I'm satisfied with that.
So would that be a replacement of that last paragraph
That's correct.
then? Okay, just because of the first half, this codes, did you get what Mr. Manson was
So
suggesting?
the last clause would be struck and a replacement clause, and further the staff report back to council on mechanisms to control development permits,
Councillor Swain?
to further control.
Through the chair to staff, that sounds acceptable to me. Ultimately, this is just, can be used as a stimulus for further actions.
Okay, now recognizing the magnitude of that side of a change, if we could actually do that as a motion. So Councillor Swain moved that amendment to the original motion, seconded by Councillor Hain. Mr. Manson, discussion on the amendment?
I just thought that way is putting it to ensure compliance.
Okay, so that was in that motion from Councillor Swain and Councillor Hain? Yes. Discussion on the amendment. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Does that get us down to the main motion? Any further discussion on the main motion as amended? Councillor Hain?
So just so I'm clear, because I got lost in all those amendments. We're going to still provide I believe the residents already have Frank's original email to council. It's already out there on social media, so they have that one. But we're now going to provide further follow-up on what's occurring, how it's being repaired, how the various agencies are being involved and setting the record straight and fixing that part of the creek. Is that correct, what's going to happen?
It's understanding.
That sound good? Yep, staff's nodding.
I just want to make sure we get feedback to the residents and that they're satisfied.
Any further discussion on the amended motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Next item, Canada British Columbia Clean Water and Wastewater Fund grant application. As was mentioned previously with the regional district, the federal government funded in their budget in April 2016 a program with regards to clean water and wastewater. There's some grant. The province signed off their side part of the document 2 weeks ago at UBCM. It's a grant program I've been following along, waiting for it to be approved. Unfortunately, to go back to the pipe side of things, we've ordered a pipe and we may not have chosen the best way to pay for it. So I move that council direct staff to proceed with submitting Canada British Columbia Clean Water and Wastewater Fund grant application to the BC Ministry of Community, Sport and Cultural Development for the Lansville Nanaimo Interconnection Pipe Project, and that the district share of the project be provided from water capital reserves. Second by Councillor Hain. Discussion. Councillor Geselbrecht.
What do you mean by the last paragraph there?
If successful under this part, there's the previous motion that amended the financial plan, and there's the previous direction to staff with regards to how to proceed. With regards to this grant program, it's 83 cent dollars if you get the full amount. So effectively, if we were successful, the balance, the 17%, would come from water capital reserves.
And the grant amount would, and the grant amount would be sufficient so that the difference could be made up from the water capital reserves. Yes?
Yeah, the grant amount between the federal and provincial amount is up to 83%.
And this in no way changes the previous motion on the bylaw.
That's correct. And in the event we were successful, we would actually have to go back and amend the financial plan again.
But we've got the money.
Correct.
Good.
Yeah, that's an easy day. Councillor Hain?
Well, I like this. Personally, I think this is what we should have done at the very beginning. This is, we're going to put, if we get the grant, we put it back into the water capital reserve, so we pay back the existing resident share, which is really where it should go. So I think this is a really good idea. My biggest question is to staff, are we ready and can we submit this application in time?
The answer to that is yes. We're looking at hiring a consulting engineering firm to do the grant for us. They've indicated that yes, they can get it in within the deadline.
Just so, what is the deadline?
November 30th, I believe.
30th or 30th?
It's November sometime.
Councillor Coulson.
People are going to hate me for speaking like this, but I would prefer us to apply for a grant for infrastructure within the community, distribution stuff, a pipe to the Winds, a pipe to Blackjack, something to that effect. So it's pretty encouraging that we're going to have water from our own wells to give to the community, keep the infrastructure in here. What I'm concerned about, loose concern maybe, so what if we get a grant? What if we put the pipe in? What if we put the grant money toward this pipe and the water agreement goes sideways? We've asked Nanaimo for some amendments, no feedback. There's still some legal concerns outstanding around the agreement. So if the agreement is overturned, we've now used grant money for a project that we're not actually using potentially. That will severely jeopardize our ability to get grant money in the future, I would think.
Councillor Gilbert.
Although I disagree with Councillor Coulson's characterization of the future water agreement, I'm heartened once again by our mayor's own statement at the Nanaimo Council meeting in June of this year that Landsville is committed to implement the water agreement in any event. So based on my faith in that statement to the Nanaimo Council by our mayor, I'm going to vote in favor of this amendment.
That's right.
Just for my own knowledge, will there be another intake date for applying for future infrastructure grants for water pipes? Do we research that?
If I may, Your Worship, nothing has been stated right now. Whether or not there is one, that's speculation. I would presume that if it's not this grant opportunity, there will be other grant opportunities in the future. At this point, it's timely for this project.
Correct.
Further discussion. It's the second time Councillor Geselmark has made that statement with regards to my presentation at the City of Nanaimo. And my words weren't Landsville, it was this council when it comes to that aspect, because the minute the by-election occurred, there was a statement that we have the votes to connect the pipe. Now what it is, we're trying to do planning after the fact. We've approved a pipe. With regards to the district itself, if you look at our financial plan, within a couple of years we will have $2 million worth of debt. So it's important for us to figure out how we're going to pay for things rather than on the backs of the existing residents. So the reason for bringing this forward right now isn't because I believe we should be connecting the pipe at this moment. It's because that's what the direction of council was. So I'm trying to make it so that it's the least onerous with regards to the residents themselves. With regards to the pipe as well, there's a development project on the Ryland Hotel property led by Darwin Mellon. We've effectively shown our cards and said, we'll put in your pipe. When in actual fact, the subdivision application comes forward, the direction with regards to the OCP amendment and the zoning amendment that would occur, the direction we go to the developer is, you want to do it, you put in the pipe. And the only thing we would be responsible for would be any upsizing above and beyond his needs. But like I said, having said that, council direction was to connect the pipe. So I'm trying to make it so it's the least financially onerous to the district itself. With regards to this grant program, it was announced in 2016. The only reason it was only approved in BC was because of the aspect of elections in UBCM. Other provinces approved it previously. So I was well aware that this was coming down the pike, and when it comes to the aspect of monitoring of grants from a financial basis, it's important for us to do that and take advantage of them when we can. Councillor Coulson, you made the comment about other pipes and that you would rather see this go to. This one's on a short time frame, as was previously mentioned. The aspect of the election side for the province is a reason for that short time frame, so it allows them to get some good press going forward. As I said, it does potentially pay 83 cents on the dollar for a pipe rather than the residents footing through various funds the whole 100%. Any further discussion on the motion? And I would like to ask for a recorded vote. I just thought I'd be with the team. Councillor Coulson?
So, can council review this submission before it goes out the door? Well, I'll rephrase that. I would like to see what's in this submission before it goes out the door. I would like to see how we're expressing ourselves and what the need is and so forth.
That's a staff question.
It's public document.
It's not a mayor question.
If I may, Your Worship, council is privy to all reports, etc., from the district, so of course you can see it.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Councillor Swain, Councillor Hain, Councillor Colclough, Mayor Hain, Councillor Coulson, Councillor Neary, Councillor Geselbrecht, unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion carried. Which gets us to item number 10, public participation. Oh, sorry.
Just a question, was the council procedure bylaw, have you made this?
We didn't add it to the agenda.
Okay.
Is it time critical?
Not from my perspective, but the committee as a whole had requested it, so.
Yeah, what do they know? Sorry, Councillor Geselbrecht.
That was my earlier query during the committee of the whole meeting, that we rise and report whether that's the appropriate method or a motion to accept the procedural bylaw as amended. That might be the more appropriate. I see we have copies of the amended procedural bylaw now. I believe that was passed out.
Yes.
Okay. So my motion is that
It's not on the agenda.
That's okay. Right now, as it stands with our procedure bylaw, we can make motions as we see fit.
And so just for clarity, council hasn't given it any readings, so it's
No.
going to be as.
It's not amended. No.
And what we provided.
So it's as presented.
Is, yeah.
And it's written on the committee of whole.
Okay.
Yeah.
So page 1 of the committee of the whole, the motion you're suggesting is written there, all three.
So I'll refer to our agenda, that the Committee of the Whole recommends that Council gives first reading to the, quote, District of Landsville Council Procedure Bylaw number 118, 216, close quote, that Council...
Oh, hang on, that's where you stop.
Okay.
Seconded by Councillor Colclough. Discussion. For the public side of things, what we're doing is we're amending the procedure bylaw to allow for a number of things, including additional public input periods prior to a meeting, as opposed to just the public participation at the end. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Councillor Geselbrecht.
Move the Council give second reading to the same bylaw.
Seconded by Councillor Swain. Discussion? Councillor Hain.
So just to clarify for the public, since we're getting into it, there's a lot of new good features within the procedure bylaw. What we're doing is there's going to be a public input period before we start the business of the district, where residents can speak on an item that's on the agenda, which is a good thing. We're not going to have any limits on the number of speakers with regards to delegations within the public input period and in the public participation at the end of the meeting. So that is a good thing, or any limitations on late delegations, which I also think is a good thing. And going forward, every vote will be recorded. Those that are opposed will get recorded, so in essence you'll know who voted on what issue. So residents will be able to see what the council is their positions are. So there's a lot more accountability and transparency coming forward out of the procedure bylaw, which I think is a good thing. The only one thing, as I mentioned in the CAL, that I wasn't happy about is that the request to be a delegation is being moved back to Tuesday at 2 p.m. Instead of Wednesday at 4 p.m. So you lose a day. So there's a bit of a barrier, you know, a little bit of, you have to think ahead in order to know if you want to be on the delegation, but you can always come and be a late delegation. So in the spirit of our strategic bylaw, our policy on enhanced accountability, transparency, and public input, we're hoping the bylaw, this improved procedure bylaw, will help to do that.
Any further discussion? Are you telling me they don't want to read the
No.
29-page document? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Councilor Guzman?
I move the council gives third reading to bylaw number 118, 216.
Second by Councilor Swain. Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Now public participation. Name and address for the record, sir.
19796 Lancaster Terrace. How many properties are connected to the water system? Can you tell me roughly?
895.
Well, there's 892 allowed connections. However, they're not all connected. I think it's about 885 or something like that.
880 roughly?
Yeah.
And how many properties are there in Lancaster?
1,500.
I don't know the exact numbers if you want.
1,500. Okay, so here we are, 800 and close to 900 participants have been contributing funds through the water system to accumulate and come up with this nice piece of money, right? And I sat here and I just looked how flippant four councillors were and how they were willing to put their fingers in the cookie jar and pull that money out because it was there, right? Like as it was a general fund. And I take exception to that. That money was there and it was supposed to be somewhat protected. And I have to say to myself, now who are they looking after? Obviously not the taxpayer who voted them in place, who they're supposed to represent, the people of Lansdowne. But through developers and people who may be anywhere else in the world who eventually will buy properties that will be developed in Lansdowne. Well, that is not what you're here for. You're here to protect the people. The people who are paying the taxes in Lansdowne. And in this case here, the majority of people who happen to be on the water system have been contributing money to this fund. I'm surprised that nobody is here to represent the people. They're not told. And I think you've got to go on a major issue like this because you're getting the money, your fingers in the cookie jar, and spending their money. Right? In good faith, they put it in there. And in good faith, they trust you to look after the purse strings. The reason, and it upsets me because you're a divided council again, there's 4 of you against 3. And the reason I respect the positions that Colin Haim, the Mayor, and Councillor Haim take is because I know they're chartered accountants. And professionally and ethically, they are there and they cannot do anything professionally but look after and safeguard the people and the money that the people have contributed to the coffers. The rest of you better take really, really good attention to this. Because it isn't self-interest, it isn't self-interest or interest of the developers. But you are telling the developers everything. The perception on my part is that you're looking after the developers. And people are known to people in Lansdowne. But you're here to represent us. And it's our money that you're willing to spend willy-nilly. Enough said on that. Let's go to another issue. I'm really upset about that. Thank God you had 9D in the agenda, and obviously some of you weren't aware what 9D represented. But there's an opportunity there maybe of getting some money, and you were not concerned about how you were even going to pay back that money into that allocated fund of 114,000 or whatever. You're just going to take it away from it, right? No concern about putting it back. if you've got grant money. Let's go to another issue which I talked about before over the years of our municipality, and that is when you have people coming in for variances. The minute someone comes in for variances, the alarm bells should go off, because they want to do something that really is not allowed. I was on the Parks and Rec Commission. We spent a lot of time protecting Narson Creek and the creeks in this community. I don't give a hoot, Frank, excuse me, whether there's compensation.
Mr. Hallowell?
Sorry?
Please address council.
To the council, okay. Compensation means nothing with anyone with deep pockets. If they think they can do what the hell they want, and just, if there's a hue and cry about it, someone comes up and says, okay, well, what do we need to pay? So they just pay it. But the damage in years to the natural environment that we have tried to protect in this community, you cannot compensate it with money. That's the easy way out.
Okay.
Just one more
Mr.
thing,
Hallowell,
if I may, Mr. Mayor.
is it short?
It is very short.
Okay.
And as far as the contractor is concerned, which, you want to blame the property owner, but the contractor should be identified and they should be banned from any further activity of development in this community. Thank you very much.
I don't believe that last part is legal, but stand to be corrected.
Well, they should be publicized to the point that the people will not have any say out of the midnight.
Put them in the stocks.
Further public participation.
I think he said it all. The way we all feel. Well done.
Okay, so in the absence of any more public participation, we have a motion to go in camera, please. Moved by Councillor Swain, as presented in the agenda, seconded by Councillor Neary. All those in favor?